Hello. It's first thing in the morning in Oslo. And welcome to my whistle stop tour. I parked up here in the harbour car park, which is an official parking space for overnight camper vans here in Oslo. And I'm within 10-15 minutes walk of some of the top things to see and do in Oslo. I've picked 5 of them. The Royal Palace, Oslo City Hall, the Parliament of Norway, Kvadraturen, Akershus. I'm sure all of this will make sense when I get to them. All 5 stops are within a half-hour walk of the city centre. There's a couple of other things worth seeing if you've got lots of time, including Holmenkollen, which is a very famous ski jump, and Vigeland Park, which is some of the most famous sculptures in the world. Also worth noting are the number of museums and art galleries in downtown Oslo. All worth seeing. But this is Whistle Stop, 5 stops, let's go, stop number 1. Yes, I am desperate to go on a cruise. I'd really like to do one. I never thought I'd say that. But at this age, it means you're walking on the flat. Quite a lot. No, but seriously, I've seen some cruise liners in very tight spots that I didn't expect to see them further up on the Norwegian coast. Up a fjord. It's very tempting. Would you like to see me do a cruise review? Let me know in the comments below. This is not an official stop, but it is the Nobel Peace Prize Centre. There's a couple of places that figure in Oslo's history in terms of making the decision and giving out the awards, but that's the official place that you can visit. The Norwegian Royal Palace took 25 years to build, being opened in 1849, but not by the king who had commissioned it. According to the official website, it's the workplace of all of the Norwegian royals. You can take a tour here in the summer months, June, July and August usually, but for early birds like me, the 11 a.m. starting time is probably a little bit on the late side. Still, we could admire it from the outside, particularly a soldier in a box. The Queen's Garden entrance sits off to the left-hand side of the Royal Palace. If you didn't expect the palace to be open, because it's not yet, not until 11 as I mentioned, then you wouldn't know that this was open and that it's fragrant and delicious. And yes, setting off my hay fever, but the colours are lovely all the same. I do like a pink flower. It's on to stop number 2. That's the National Theatre, celebrating Pride. That's the way to do it. Don't hide your stripes under a bushel. Put them out on the balcony. Hooray for Pride. Infect the begrudgers. This is Oslo City Hall behind me. It's always struck me as a Soviet brutalist type building, but that's wrong. The architectural style is, I'm told, functionalism. That's one way of looking at it, I suppose. It's quite dramatic in terms of its look and feel, and it houses what goes on in City Council here in Oslo. Honestly, it was quiet here a second ago. This may take some time. As the bells for 10 o'clock ring out, it's probably timely to say that the Eastern Tower has a carillon of 49 bells. I said I'd mention the Nobel Peace Prize one more time. Well, this is actually where it's handed out. I'm willing to accept peace prizes or prizes for physics. I don't know anything about physics, but I'm willing to still accept the money. Speaking of which, check out my Patreon. The address is here. Last time I'll mention it. Guided tours are, of course, available if that's your vibe. It's time for stop number 3. In today's walk around the city centre, there are some moderate hills, some steps, and a total of about 30 minutes of walking between sites. Hopefully that sets your expectations in terms of the difficulty of this walk. Easy to moderate, but mind those steps. Try not to get run over. The building behind me is the Storting, which is the National Parliament of Norway. It has 169 cameral members, that is, individuals who sit as members of Parliament. I have to admit, I walked past it and thought it was an opera house. So that shows my foolish approach to architecture. This was a brief one. On to stop number 4. This isn't an official stop, but it is the Oslo Domkirke, the cathedral built in the 17th century and which houses lots of modern day events that happen in Oslo. Let's have a little look inside. Dramatic doors. For stop number 4, we're entering into more of an area than a single place called Kvadraturen, or Quadrature in English, apparently. A website told me that. And it's the site of a Renaissance city that was built by King Christian IV after the centre of the city was burned down in a massive fire. He spotted this area and said, let's build a new place here. And it's laid out in quadrangles and square shapes. And so this is Kvadraturen. As you saw from that little montage, a lot of this area has been taken over by very posh shops. Not a lot of the 17th century houses remain from its foundation, but this one is from 1626, which we can tell by the very handy ironwork on the side of the building. And this street, which leads down to the old fortress, is probably the best preserved of this area. Time for another mini montage. This is stop number 5, Akershus Festning, or Akershus Fortress. When the new quadrant was established by King Christian IV, and called, of course, Christiania after himself, it was built in the shadow of the fortress here at Akershus. He was keeping all the things he cared about close together. Stop number 5. The fortress is, of course, situated very strategically overlooking the bay, and as a result, it boasts some of the most beautiful views of downtown Oslo. So this is the inner courtyard of the castle. You can take some photographs. I know I did. And you can enter into the main castle, buy a ticket and view some of the rooms inside. Tickets cost 100 Norwegian kroner, or about 10 euros if you want to do a little tour. I don't have time today. On my whistle stop tour, I'm happy to have seen the outside. It's time for me to head back to the van. I love a museum as much as the rest of us, and if I were here for the whole weekend, I'd be visiting a lot more of them. There are a bunch more places to visit in Oslo. Don't think that my top 5 are the only 5, or might necessarily be your top 5. And yes, that's the same ship as earlier, but from this higher angle. I could just get a few steps down there. I'll be right beside where the camper van is. I managed to park up only about 10-15 minutes walk away from the city centre in this weird car park. It costs about €27 to park overnight, and there are no facilities. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Planet Patrick from here in Oslo on our little whistle stop tour. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. And you can hit that tiny bell for notifications. It helps the YouTube algorithm promote me to other people. And you want to share the pain, don't you? Enough of the sales and marketing. Until the next episode, take care. Bye bye.